Okay, what if we could find cancer long before it ever has a chance to form a tumor? Seriously, what if a simple test could spot the disease at its absolute earliest molecular stage? This isn't science fiction anymore. It is happening right now. So let's dive into the absolutely incredible world of nanotechnology and see how these microscopic detectives are being built to hunt down breast cancer right at the source.
So, here's what we're going to cover. First, we'll talk about the race against time and why this is all so critical. Then, we're going to uncover cancer's secret little messengers. After that, we'll see how nanotechnology comes to the rescue. We'll break down exactly how these amazing sensors find their clues. And, finally, we'll take a look at what the future of detection holds.
All right, first things first. When it comes to something like cancer, every single moment counts. It is truly a race against time, and finding it early, well, that is the single most important factor for a successful outcome.
And just to give you a sense of the scale here, look at this number. In 2020 alone, there were 2.3 million new cases of breast cancer diagnosed across the globe. It's the most common cancer in women worldwide, which makes the need for better diagnostics a massive global health priority.
So, this brings up a really big question. If we all know that early detection saves lives, why is it still such a huge challenge? I mean, our best tools like mammograms are absolutely vital, but they're not perfect. Why can't they always catch the disease in its absolute infancy?
Well, the answer really comes down to one word: sensitivity. Think about it this way. Traditional methods are kind of like using a standard magnifying glass. They're looking for physical changes, a pretty big collection of clues. But they often just can't see the single tiny molecular signals that show up long before a tumor even begins to form.
And this is where things get really, really interesting. It turns out cancer isn't completely silent in those early stages. Not at all. It's actually sending out these secret messengers, tiny clues that start circulating all throughout our bodies.
These clues have a name. They're called biomarkers. And according to the National Cancer Institute, they are biological molecules that act as a sign of disease. But a much simpler way to think about them is like molecular fingerprints. When a process like cancer kicks off, it starts leaving these unique prints behind, giving us a signal that something's wrong.
And these fingerprints, they're not just one thing. This diagram really shows the variety here. If you look right in the center, you can see that cancer cells can release fragments of their DNA, or maybe specific proteins, or even these tiny little packages called exosomes. All of these different clues get shed into the bloodstream, basically becoming a trail for us to follow.
So, we've got these microscopic clues, but they're often there in incredibly small amounts. We're talking like finding a single grain of sand on a vast beach. So to find them, we need a detective that is just as small. And that, right there, is where nanotechnology comes to the rescue.
A nanometer. It's 1/1000th of a meter. To put that into perspective for you, a single human hair is about 80,000 nanometers wide. So by working at this ridiculously tiny scale, scientists can create these nanoparticles that have special optical, electrical, and chemical abilities that are absolutely perfect for sensing things.
And this comparison really shows you the game-changing advantage here. On one side, you have our traditional diagnostics, which are often more invasive, slower, and just less sensitive. And on the other side, you have the promise of nanosensors, ultra-high sensitivity from just a tiny sample, like a single drop of blood, delivering results incredibly fast.
Okay, so we've got the clues, the biomarkers, and we've got the detectives, the nanosensors. But how does this investigation actually work? Let's walk through the process step by step.
It's really a beautiful four-step process. First, a simple, non-invasive sample is collected. Think blood or saliva. Second, the specially engineered nanosensors are mixed in. Now, these sensors are designed to act like a magnet for one very specific biomarker. So if that biomarker is in there, they latch right on. And finally, that binding action triggers a signal that we can actually read. So let's go back to our diagram for a second. We talked about the biomarkers in the middle being the clues. Now, look over to the right side at the detection methods. This is how the detective reports back. An optical nanosensor might literally change color or start to glow when it finds its target. An electrochemical one creates a tiny electric current, a digital signal. The kind of signal it sends just depends on how that specific nanosensor was built.
This all sounds unbelievably promising. And believe me, it is. But turning this science from the lab into a clinical reality you can use, well, that's the next major step. So let's look at the road ahead, both the exciting possibilities and the challenges that still need to be solved. Before this becomes part of your annual checkup, scientists have some pretty big hurdles to clear. First and foremost is safety. What actually happens to these tiny particles in the body over many years?
That's something called nanotoxicity and has to be completely ruled out. Then there's manufacturing. How do you produce billions of identical perfect sensors affordably and at a huge scale? And finally, you've got regulation, proving to agencies like the FDA that these tests are not just clever, but that they're consistently accurate and reliable for everybody.
But, oh man, the promise is what drives all this research forward. I mean, just imagine wearable sensors that continuously monitor your health in real time, or artificial intelligence that analyzes the sensor data for instant, super accurate results. This could lead to truly personalized medicine, where treatments are tailored to the specific biomarkers of your cancer, all of which was caught earlier than we ever thought possible.
This quote from the research really just nails the whole thing. It's not just one technology working in isolation, it's this powerful combination of nanotechnology to find the clues, molecular precision to be sure they're the right clues, and then AI to make sense of it all. It's a trifecta.
And that brings us to a final, pretty powerful question. We've seen the science shrink from these huge machines down to microscopic detectives. Could this path ultimately lead to a future where screening for cancer is as simple and accessible as, say, a home pregnancy test? The research we've just looked at isn't just suggesting it's possible, it's showing us the scientists are actively building the tools to make it a reality.